Three, two, one. Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Electrek podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and today I'm joined as usual by Seth Winchell. How you doing today, Seth?
I'm good.
All right, and we have a special guest, David from Tesla Welt, the main German podcast about Tesla. How you doing, David?
I'm fine, thank you.
Perfect. So David got an opportunity to go to the Tesla Gigafest last weekend. So we're going to discuss that with him in a second. But as usual, thanks to our sponsor, Electrify America, for sponsoring this show this week. Electrify America is the largest ultra-fast network of fast charging station in the US. And we're going to have a little bit more to say about them later on the show. So stay tuned for that. But let's jump in with your experience, David, at Gigafest last weekend. That was Saturday, last Saturday, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
So it's sort of kind of the unveiling for Gigafactory Berlin, basically, but it was a big party, sort of introducing Tesla to the locals. Is that how you would describe it?
Absolutely. I was really surprised that there were not the usual Tesla crowd or the usual Tesla fans, but it was really for people from the area, and Tesla did a great job to just invite them. I had a very good impression from the organization. It was there was about 9,000 people because they had a permission only for 9,000 people, and there were well more people who applied, but unfortunately not everybody could come.
Yeah, so those were due to the COVID restrictions, right? So it was
Yeah.
they had to limit the spaces there. So it looked basically like what we know here as a carnival, right? I don't know.
Yeah. It was really a county fair with activities for families, and it was really awesome. Everybody was very relaxed. It was a really good, nice atmosphere. People were enjoying themselves, and it was people discovering Tesla. It was really also people who never got in touch with Tesla before. I was at some point in a Model X in the back, and I was just watching the people who went inside, and they're really there for the first time.
So yeah, they had a bunch of Tesla vehicles there for testing, and a lot of people were for the first time. Was there test drives or test ride? Were you allowed to
There
drive
was
them?
test rides with Model Y, and cars were just launching like every 20 seconds, I would say. Was a huge queue. Like in the afternoon, you had to wait like 70 minutes to get
Wow.
into the Model Y. So people really wanted to try the cars.
Yeah, I bet those are popular. And then for the Tesla crowd, for people that are more interested in the nitty gritty of the Tesla world, there was a factory tour that was probably the main event, right?
Exactly. That was open for everybody, and I think people really enjoyed it as well. Tesla did a great job because they just opened the doors, and you had like a 2 kilometers path next to the production line. So really from the beginning until the end, you could watch and have a look at everything basically. And there were every maybe 50 meters employees from Tesla just there to talk to you. You could ask them anything. You could take pictures, videos, whatever you like. I spent like 5 hours inside. It was supposed to be just 1.5 hours, but I just talked to so many people that I stayed nearly all day inside.
Anything that you found surprising or that piqued your interest inside in terms of any of the technology that they were displaying?
I was well surprised by how open they were. Like people wanted to talk, they wanted to talk to you, and you could feel how motivated the people were, like from Tesla. I mean, they were just waiting for this big factory to start production, and they are basically ready. They just wait for the permission, and I have a feeling like they could start nearly immediately.
Oh yeah, so at the event, Elon also had a little presentation and took questions. and he said that he believes that Tesla would be able to start production next month, so in November. But your impression is that they could start right now, but it's limited to the regulatory approval. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Of course, they are not 100% ready, but it's seemed to me like it's a question of weeks, like 2 weeks maybe or something. It's like
Mm-hmm.
mainly permission is missing, and Elon was talking about different topics as well. For example, the 4680 cells, that was a question if they would be in the cars from the beginning. And he said something interesting. He said they would come probably from Tesla China. And I didn't really know how to interpret that. I don't know if you have an opinion about this.
Well, they might be from a
Right.
supplier. They might not necessarily be from Tesla. And we know that a lot of suppliers have been working on the 4680 format. I mean, that's what was the most encouraging thing to me of the whole presentation and the whole Gigafest is that there was a real focus on the structural battery pack. And my understanding is that if they use the structural battery pack, they have to use the 4680 cells. It's not like they can make that pack without them. So I see a lot of
Yeah.
die casting stuff here too. Yeah, a lot of pictures about that, and we know that they have some of the biggest casting machines in the world there at Berlin. So they would. Which part is that? Like, I don't even recognize it. It's a giant one. I can't even tell.
Yes, they have. This was the stamping press. The pictures that you see right there. But they have, of course, the Giga press ready as well. There are all in all 8 of them. They're not already all up and running, but there will be 8 all in all. And
So here we see. So the Giga Press produces the front casting here, the rear casting, each in one
yeah,
piece, and then they simply have to put those giant stamping a body part here, the B pillar and the C pillar on each side. And so are we looking at basically 4 pieces here? That's it.
I mean you have the front and the rear,
Yeah.
and then they like there's the battery pack which is building
Mhm.
the structure all in all, and I think that it was the first time that they displayed that actually.
Mhm.
I don't remember that they had that on display somewhere else before, so that was also something which was really cool. And yes, you got a picture there as well from where they kind of showed a pack with 2170 cells, and next to it the one with the 40 yeah
I don't know if we're coming up to
4680s.
that. We have a lot of pictures here, so I'm trying to match it with the one you're talking about. Okay, this is a battery pack. Is that the stretchable one though? I'm not sure.
Um, no, it's another picture.
Yeah.
That is, I
Yeah.
think, a bit later. Yeah, that is
Well,
the
here we
one
see
thing.
all the different cells that they display
Yeah,
here. So that's the 4680. That I would assume 2170. Okay. Okay. Yeah. You have it written down there. They compared it to a AAA and a AA too.
yeah,
That's
that
cool.
was really cool as well, I think.
Yeah. All right, so
Yeah,
this is
here
here.
you
This is
go.
a close up to the structural pack and the where the welded to the that's the rear, right? That's the rear casting, I think.
Yeah, that's the big casting. Yeah,
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 exactly.
exactly.
Here you have the whole view
And
here.
here you have the whole thing. And I think I've never seen this before. So this was for me really cool to see this here for the first time, to be so close to it, to be able to talk to the people on the line who are explaining how it works, where it's attached, how it's attached. It was just great. It was
Mm,
really, really awesome that that I had the
mm,
opportunity with all these people to talk to the Tesla employees, which were just ready to go and start Berlin. And I think you have to know something about Germany. Like we Germans, we love German cars. that's one thing. And an American brand which starts in the backyard of our premium automakers, it's not that common, and there are a lot of there's a lot of prejudice as well. Like people think like they don't have American brands that don't have the best reputation in Germany, and on top of it, it's an electric car. So you can imagine that there's a lot of skepticism from the people, and I think that was really well done by Tesla to be as open as they were and to show everything.
So obviously Tesla remains an American brand at heart, but with these cars, like we saw some of the pictures you took where Tesla says that 80% of the parts are going to be coming from Europe, and that majority of that's going to be from Germany itself. Do you think there's any way that the German auto buyers start seeing the sure Tesla's an American brand, but this Model Y in particular, the German built Model Y as a German car, really?
That's the genius of Elon Musk, that he put this factory into Germany, which is the biggest auto market in Europe. We have like 3.5 million cars a year which are sold in Germany. That was before COVID, but that's around the number. Yeah, something like 3 to 3.5 million cars, and so it's a huge market. And Tesla is not well known in this market. Like, right now, we have 61,000 Teslas in Germany. That's nothing, you know. And 1/3 of that was sold this year. So you can imagine that Tesla is not that known. And you could see that from the people who were there. They were really experiencing that for the first time.
Yeah, they barely tapped into the market really as of now. One interesting thing that I saw from, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, or expand based on what you learned at the event. But so with the structural battery pack, yeah, you have the structural battery pack, you have the front casting, the rear casting, and they also putting right on it the seat mount. So the idea, my understanding, the idea is that you could latch on the seat from it and build the body around it, so you wouldn't have to bring the robots to through the body in order to install the seats. Am I right?
That's how I understood it as well. Yes.
Okay. So basically, saving a few steps through the assembly process or the general assembly line. So, what am I looking at here?
That's the front of basically the body, and I think these things in front of it, they are to absorb the shock if you have an accident.
Yeah, the crash rails, I think they call it. And these are linked to the battery pack, right? I think on this side.
I'm not sure. No, I think that's not the battery pack there.
Yeah, but around it.
Here you have the two. Yeah, here this was a really cool picture as well. Like, you had the two different technologies, the old one and the new one, or the old cells and the new cells next to each other. That was also unique for me. I've never seen this before like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think this pack is very, very recent. I mean, on Electrek, we released the first picture of the structural pack. I think it was in May or something, but it didn't look like that just yet. So this is definitely a brand new version of it that Tesla is going to build there. Yeah, close up here, you can clearly see the 4680 cells, much bigger.
Yeah,
that's a 2170.
What I thought was interesting as well was Elon was talking about, or there was a question about whether the castings would also go into the Plaid Model S, for example. And he basically said no to this. He said the Plaid Model S has just the castings for the corner nodes, and that was like this before, and this will stay like this. And the front rear casting is in the Model Y, and that's it. Didn't say
yeah, I think he commented on that before, and the issue is this: they already have deployed like so much investment into the production lines in Fremont about that, so it doesn't make that much sense to reinvest in, even though it would be less capital intensive than doing it the whole way. It's just the benefits are not big enough for the investment right now. Like, people are still gonna buy the Model S Plaid the way it is being built right now. So that's a view from where are you taking that picture from right now on this one here?
Is that the Ferris wheel?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, on the Ferris wheel.
On the Ferris wheel, and it's just on the other side basically where there's no buildings yet. So
Okay,
the
so this
shop
is
really
the a
goes.
highway next to the factory, and
Yeah,
there's going to be a train station around here too, I think, for the. Oh, that's
yeah.
great.
There are going to be a train station. He was talking about this. He said it's a bit ironical that we, as a car company, will build a train station and ask
Mm-hmm.
people to come with the train. And but yes, there's one which is yeah, you can go by bus, but they want to have one really on site.
So would you would it be possible for you like to live in Berlin and go work at Gigafactory, or is that would that commute be too much of a nightmare?
No, that is possible.
It's possible, okay.
Yeah, I stayed at a friend's place in the center, and it took me like maybe 40 minutes to go there.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
doable. Yeah.
yeah.
Is it
And
close by the new airport?
yeah, it's not too far away from the new airport. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And and of course, I'm still hoping for a boring company tunnel. So
Yeah, I mean, right now I think the Boring Company is focusing on on places that the regulatory approval is pretty easy, and I'm not sure that Tesla had the best experience with the approval for Gigafactory Berlin. I don't know if the Boring Company wants to
yeah,
get involved in that.
They got it
there
done
was
pretty
a
quick though.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
for German standards, yeah, for sure. But
yeah.
for
It was
like
very quick
yeah,
standards.
I mean, it took
well,
like a decade for that airport to get built.
and is it done too? Is it?
I
I'm
don't
not
even
The
sure.
know.
airport is done now, yeah, but it was a
Okay.
nightmare.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Well, David, thanks a lot for coming on the show and sharing your experience about the event. We'll do it again if you have anything like there's anything German related about Tesla, because you're obviously very knowledgeable about that stuff, and obviously there's going to be more of it now that the factory is about to start production. So thanks a lot for coming on.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks for
David.
having me. Thanks.
Have a good weekend, man.
Take care.
All right, we're gonna be moving on from the Gigafest and Giga Berlin story to discuss a lot of other Tesla stuff that we have to discuss this week. Um, oh, am I stuck on this post because I went through the pictures? I'm gonna have to go back. What's the next story this week? I forgot. We spent almost 20 minutes on that. I forget about what we could talk about next. Oh yeah, the Cybertruck. That was interesting. This happened last night. I was tipped about it, so it's not just like a software update. It was tipped before it happened, so it's somewhat significant that Tesla made this change. But they updated the Cybertruck webpage and the pre-order webpage to remove any mention of all the configuration, their spec, and their the pricing of those specs, of those configurations. So if you remember, when Tesla first unveiled the Cybertruck in 2019, they unveiled it with a single motor rear-wheel drive version, a dual motor all-wheel drive version, and a tri-motor, like a plaid powertrain all-wheel drive version. And they were boasting specs of 250 plus miles on the base version, 300 plus miles on the mid tier version, and the tri-motor version would get 500 plus miles, with prices of 40,000, 50,000, and 70,000. That all that on the website stayed the same for the last 2 years, basically. No update whatsoever until today, when again they went from all those specs, all those information, all those pricing to basically nothing other than more information is going to come closer to production in 2022. So we don't have any more information in that. Oh well, there is also the specs. They did leave some of the specs on the main page, but just like the top ones. So 14,000 pounds of towing capacity, 0-16 2.9 seconds, but they did change the 500 plus miles to up to 500 miles. So that's probably a notable change here, since it would show a limit to 500 miles instead of going over it. But this was kind of expected to a degree, because especially after the delay to the Cybertruck program, Tesla, on unlike most of the automakers, they're pretty good at sticking to their specs announced on the concept vehicle, because they have this idea that the production vehicle should always be better than a concept, which is not always the case in the industry. Though there's been some exception, of course, especially when it comes to pricing. When you go to pricing, the Model 3, famously, the $35,000 version, is not concrete, let's say. But in terms of the specs themselves, they generally deliver. In this case, the vehicle probably evolved during those 2 years. Then there's also the year of delay that's adding to it. But I'm not so sure that the specs are the problem here. The pricing, and we touched about it last weekend when we discussed the price increase of the Model 3 that's now starts at $42,000, and you have the Cybertruck that supposedly starts at $40,000. And I know a bunch of publication after they did the $42,000 price increase, bunch of population were like, hey, now you can buy a Cybertruck for less than the Model 3. Of course, you cannot buy a Cybertruck, but like that was like the narrative. So maybe like Tesla like walked back when they saw that people were doing that. They're like, hey, let's not let people think that you can buy a Cybertruck for $40,000, because you probably won't be able to, unless something big changes in the next year before this trucks come to production. It doesn't make sense I mean, Elon did say at the shareholder meeting, right, that they plan to reduce the price of the Model 3 once they get the cost under control with those supply chain issues. But um, I don't know if that's going to be true, because if they can sell it for $42,000, they're going to sell them for $42,000. Like
Yeah,
doesn't make sense not to.
I don't think they're gonna sell the Cybertruck for $40,000.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the Model 3, I meant,
Yeah.
but yeah, you're right. I don't agree with that too. The Cybertruck. And,
So if you put down a reservation for a $40,000 Cybertruck, you're not gonna get a $40,000 Cybertruck. Like, there's no way that Tesla is gonna honor the people who, the million or so people who already put a $100 reservation down. Are they gonna? I mean, do you think that they're gonna honor that, or are they gonna?
they're going to
Say,
come
hey,
up with a Cybertruck standard range plus, which
you have
going to
to.
cost a little bit more, but like the Model 3 is going to be better value for that money.
Are they gonna have a off the menu?
Standard. I mean, that's the
Comes with
thing.
Model 3 tires.
It wasn't as big of a promise to have a $40,000 Cybertruck as it was for the Model 3. Like the Model 3, they hammered that for years. Like, we're gonna have a $35,000 car
Yeah,
and everything.
that was the defining feature.
So when they realized that didn't make much sense, that's when they came up with the whole of the menu thing for the standard range. And then we're gonna close all this. If you want your $35,000 Model 3, we're gonna have to close all the stores. And then that's when all that thing happened and everything. I don't think that's that big of a deal here. You look at the reservation rate. Most people are reserving the dual motor. Most people are reserving the tri-motor. Like the $40,000 version is not that popular. So I don't think that's going to be a problem on that front at all. But let's keep an eye on the specs too, and the pricing for the higher end version too. They could change. So we're going to keep an eye on that over the next year, because it just becomes a story with Tesla doing that today.
Speaking of that, delivery times, we still think late 2022, and by late I mean December 31st.
Yeah, I mean, it was that's what they said. Not the last time, the time before that. Then in the shareholder meeting, Elon was just talking about 2022. Didn't specify late or early or mid or anything like that. But yeah, since the last time they said, the time before that they said late, I would I would stick with that, just not to get too disappointed. On the Tesla Semi front, there was a news that this week that the first Megacharger is being deployed at Gigafactory Nevada. And so that's good news. That's something we've been waiting for a long time, because the supercharger network is just not equipped to support the semi truck, or barely even the Cybertruck, really. And we've been starting to see some new station being deployed for the supercharger, with the mention of like a truck stall, so for a bigger vehicle like the Cybertruck. But this is something different here. This is for the mega charger, so you can see the well, I don't know if you can call them stalls anymore, but where you park the truck, it's much longer. It can obviously welcome a semi truck even with a trailer, and you see the chargers being deployed, the tower, like similar. They look similar, if not the same as the supercharger one. It's just a lot more of them for what looks like to be 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 actual stalls. So it's gonna be interesting to see if the actual tower, the connector themselves, the tower themselves changes, because we don't have them here. With these looks like the pedestal for them, but not the actual charger. And yeah, we've been discussing that Tesla has been working on their own over 1 megawatt high power charging standard with Charian. So they've been trying to, at the very least, have a hand in making the standard for electric truck charging, and maybe even have the standard. But there was a bunch of other companies that's been competing for it, including Electrify America, and ABB is also another big player in that field. So it's going to be interesting how that play out. And we know that Jérôme Guillen, the former head of heavy trucking at Tesla, did mention that they were working with partners for the Megacharger. So it would be interesting to see exactly what ends up happening. But these at Gigafactory Nevada are clearly going to be for testing and for Tesla's internal fleet, which should grow soon. We've been reporting that Tesla has been building a low volume production line for Tesla Semi. I mean, it's at Gigafactory Nevada. It's a building next to it, but that's in the same industrial park. So these truck now, Tesla did say that they don't plan to do customer deliveries this year. It's going to be pushed to next year, hopefully. But they still plan to make some prototypes or pre-production vehicles at that line, and we expect them to be used internally for between Gigafactory Nevada and Fremont, where Tesla moves a ton of powertrains, drivetrains, and battery packs, and mega packs, and all that stuff. Next, we have some more information about the wider release. So it's officially started on Monday, so just a few days late from Friday when it was supposed to come. But now the first people with 100 out of 100 score on their driver safety score, they received the update. So it's nothing exactly groundbreaking and new. Like if we compare to what we've been seeing from the early access program, it's really the same update that they're getting than as anyone else. It's just in the hands of probably twice as many customers now, because they said they started with about 1,000, and we know that there were 2,000 people in their access program, but it was apparently mostly Tesla employees. So now the next update is expected to be next Friday, so a week from today. It's going to be linked with the 10.3 update. So Tesla is like increasing the wider release with improving the software with new updates. And but he did say that it's going to be people with a 99 score out of 100 that's going to get it. And we knew that as of earlier this week, after they did start the wider release to 100 out of 100, not everyone that had a perfect score were getting the update. So I assume that over the next week, Tesla does release it to everybody else that have 100, because if you start going down to those with 99, it's not the same. But at the same time, we've been learning this week that having a perfect score is not always necessary, because there was a Tesla investor by the name of Russ Gerber, I think. Gerber?
Probably Gerber.
Gerber? Okay, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name correctly. He's an influential Tesla investor on Twitter, and he was complaining on Twitter that he didn't have a good driving score, and he was blaming it on driving in LA, which can be more difficult. I don't know if Seth, you had some words about that, because you've been driving in LA for a long time. You lived there for a long time.
Yeah, so I get like it's definitely harder to drive in LA, but like he was talking about his score being at 37, which like
no, but you were even said that you believe that New York is worse to drive than LA.
I think it's much harder to drive in. I mean, I spent a decade in LA. It's definitely not easy to drive in LA, but compared to New York, I think it's not even close.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, what
getting a 37 in LA doesn't seem like even close to like a good.
I mean, we've been saying that there's definitely issues with the driving score. It's not perfect. So even if he gets a 37, I'm not saying that he's a bad driver, but he was complaining about it on Twitter. Didn't say 37 on Twitter, though. He was just complaining about his score. Then the next day, he posts this tweet where He's actually whoops.
It's driving.
He's actually using the FSD, and you see here the first thing he does too is he does it, and he films himself with his phone in his hand, which is a driving relief violation.
And he's also in a plaid.
Yeah, he's in a plaid too, which he might be one of the first to get FSD in the plaid, really.
Yeah.
But then I asked him, like, how did you get? I thought you didn't have a good driving score. Then sure, he tells me you have 37 out of 100. I knew you had a bad one. I didn't know it was that bad. Well, not even a bad one. Like not having a perfect one would prevent you from getting it. So I asked him, how did you get it? And he's like, oh, they just pushed it to me. So after he complained about it on Twitter, and he doesn't know why. Apparently, he tells me that he didn't have any direct communication with Tesla about it. So I assume they just saw his complaint and decided to push it to him. But so after I post that, everyone is like, "Oh, Fred, you're complaining because they didn't push it to you, and now they push it. You're being a little jelly and everything." I'm like, I'm in Canada. I'm not expecting to get the update anytime soon. So it's not about that at all. And I'm glad that he get it. Though again, I think it looks bad that he claims to be like a super safe driver, and the first thing he does is a driving violation using it. I just think that's funny. But I'm sure he was super excited to get the update. I might have done the same and not realize it. So I'm not blaming him on that. But why I think it's interesting is like it's basically confirmation that the goal of this safety score that Tesla is doing with the FSD rollout, it's not really about getting it to the safest drivers because the score is not working perfectly, and Tesla even doesn't care about it in some cases, like this one. So that's not really the goal. The goal right now, what it seems like to me, is that it's to slow down the release. And they just found a way to blame it on the driver, basically, for slowing it down instead of because they basically run out of excuses to delay the program at this point. Like they've been delaying it for so long, so they're like, all right, we have to push it to more people. They paid for it and everything, but we want to do it as slow as possible so that we can keep doing these updates, these 10.2, now 10.3 coming, in order to improve it and make it safer and everything. So they're like, all right, let's put an arbitrary score on people and release it like that. It's like basically a lottery to get your FSD beta update. And I understand it. Like I understand, like this, from what I see from the demo that people are posting, this is not a technology that's ready to be widely released. Like it wouldn't pass a driver's test in any like first world country. I think
Right.
You would need the FSD would need to be able to bribe the people giving the test in order to pass it. So it makes sense they're doing it. I just don't understand why they need to like tell us a story about it.
So two things. One is it seems like it's quite easy to get a high score if you live in a rural area with easy roads. So that means that regardless of how good of driver you are, this is going to be going out to rural drivers first with easy driving conditions. So that's better than sending it to people, driving around Los Angeles or LaGuardia Airport. Two, like this is also, it's kind of important that this is what Tesla thinks its insurance product is going to be grading on, and I'm sure it's going to be more complex than just these 5 categories.
Well, it is not right now. So that's the other thing that we learned today. Well,
Right.
last night Tesla pushed the Tesla insurance in Texas with the real-time one, and it's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same.
So what would Ross? I mean, I'm sure he could afford it, but what do you think Ross would be paying insurance wise with the 37 score? He'd probably be paying like $10,000 per month or something for his insurance for his plaid.
I don't know if it would go that far, but it's probably already expensive to insure the plaid to start with.
Right.
It's not a cheap car, so yeah, it would affect it badly, I think. Yeah, it's there's a lot of issues around this safety score being used for.
And also, like if you drive safe, it's not fun. Like that's probably the biggest thing. Like you could either
this car, like
right.
Like if. Maybe I would have a 37 if I was driving a plaid right now, because I would be trying to have some fun with it in the safest way that I can. But like it's a performance car. Yeah, aggressive turning, which docks you some point, is one of the fun thing. like braking, like strong braking. I mean, that's you should always avoid, even if like a performance, unless you're really like on some like open road and you're trying to have some fun. But it's getting in dangerous part. But like taking it like an on ramp like fast when there's not a lot of traffic and everything like that. That's like that's why you buy those cars. I don't think those people that buy the Plaid, it's going to be a popular car to have under your Tesla insurance program, probably.
Yep.
All right.
Should we do the read real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. This episode of the Electrek podcast is brought to you by Electrify America. Electrify America now operates the largest coast-to-coast ultra-fast charging network with more than 650 charging stations, and it's growing. It currently has plans underway for around 800 total charging stations with more than 3,500 chargers to be completed by December of this year. And it plans to have more than 1,800 ultra-fast charging stations and 10,000 individual chargers installed by the end of 2025. That includes 50 kilowatt stations all the way up to 350 kilowatt chargers near highways and 50 to 150 kilowatt chargers in metropolitan areas. The newly launched Electrify America mobile apps now offer contactless payment along with CarPlay and Android Auto integration, and you can save up to 25% on charging with the new Pass Plus subscription plans. If you're an EV driver and want to learn more about Electrify America and its growing network of charging stations, find out what they're up to at electrifyamerica.com. That's electrifyamerica.com, or hit up the link in the show notes. Thanks again to Electrify America for sponsoring this week's show.
Yes, thanks, EA. If you guys have any question for us, we have a few more news items to discuss, and then we're going to jump into the comment section. If you have a specific topic you want us to discuss or an actual question to answer, please put them in all caps so that we can differentiate them versus the just regular conversation in the chat right now. Thank you very much. Tesla seems to be releasing a new series of videos that they're doing right now about some of their technology. So we know that Tesla is not big on advertising or anything like that, but they have a marketing department and they do release some marketing material and every now and again. And last month they released this Tesla Glass look that we discussed, which was like a specific look at their glass lab and how they're developing new type of glass, and they are making the car quieter with that. Now this month they're releasing one about a new crash technology that they have, a crash safety technology. So to me, it looks like a new series that Tesla is doing. I would expect more of those coming, but it was interesting. So they say that Tesla is moving away from designing their crash safety around all the different crash tests that exist in the industry and everything, and instead they are using real world crash data that they are collecting from their fleet, because of course Tesla's over 1 million cars on the road and they are adding like 250,000 of them a quarter now. So they have a lot of data because some of those vehicles are going to crash, whether you like it or not, unfortunately. And you can use the telemetry data, because Tesla has a ton of telemetry data in the vehicle from each of those crash, and try to basically build a library of different type of crashes, because the point that Anders Bell in the video, one of Tesla's director of engineering made, is that all the crashes are unique. Basically, they have some similarity and everything, but the crash tests are built around a handful of specific crashes that are normally, would assume they go with the deadliest one. Of course, you want to try to avoid those, not avoid those, but well, you want to try to avoid them. But if they do happen, you want to be prepared for them. But a bunch of different crashes can happen, and they are building a library of them. And now the car can they are working so that the car detects, based on the telemetry data, within 10 milliseconds of the crash happening, what type of crash it is, and what how they should react, how the safety system should react, which mainly the airbags. Because sometimes you don't want the airbags to deploy in a specific crash because it can be more harmful than it is beneficial to the occupants in the car. So that's what they are doing right now. And they posted this video on what is basically their first real world test of it, and they claim that it was a very successful test. So that's that's good on Tesla. They had basically a pickup truck crash into the side of a Model Y, and then deployed the airbags in reaction to the specific crash that hit the driver's side on the right around the front wheel. They said it's a world first, which I was kind of surprised. I thought that this kind of technology would already exist, but apparently not. So I'm glad that Tesla is working on it. It's kind of it's one of those things, and when they tell you about it, you're like, oh, like that should always been existed. That's crazy that no one has thought about it before. I mean, of course, Tesla has the advantage of having a highly connected fleet and everything. There was an update to the Tesla mobile app this week that included a new widget for iOS. So now you get these bigger widget here that you can have on your phone, and you can swipe to get your different car. Long pressed. Oh, it's not connected to my car right now. Nope, it changed my car. I'm on my Model 3, not my Model S. I'm gonna spy on my parents right now when driving my Model S. See what they're doing. All right, it's not updating. That's not ideal, but you get the bigger widgets. You know what it looks like. There was a few updates to the Powerwall too, so that the Powerwall can now support and maintain the utility rate plans based on season, on multiple peak periods, and buy and sell energy prices. And time-based control mode supports the updated rate plans to more accurately use energy for Powerwall when power is expensive, and charge from other sources when the power is at its cheapest. So 2 little Powerwall update there. But what's interesting too is that Tesla might have not been Tesla Scope that found it, but someone going by Kuterin on Twitter found that Tesla has a bunch of new assets regarding live view of your Autopilot cameras from the app. So basically giving you access to a live feed from your car directly from the app. And Tesla Scope here, they posted what the UI is going to look like. Of course, you cannot enable it right now, but it looks like Tesla is making a lot of progress towards it, and they would just need to turn it on at one point, but it would be coming sometime soon. We know that Green the Only, they did say that Tesla was working on it for a while now.
So what would happen is you would get an alert that, like, Tesla Sentry Mode event happened, and you could go on your phone and actually stream the video from one of the cameras, or more than one of the cameras, to see what's going on with your car in real time.
Much less like your home security cameras these days. They give you an alert or cars detected around it, and then you can click on it directly and watch what's happening.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. And I would assume that the next thing too, if not at the same time, you're going to get like an event tracking of your Sentry Mode event from the app. So instead of going to the live viewer inside your car, you can just remote view it and maybe even delete it directly from the app if it's not something that you want to keep, which is most of the time that's what's happening here. JB Straubel of Tesla's CTO fame and co-founder fame, he was on the This Week's in Startup podcast, the podcast by Jason
Calcanis.
I'm always issue with his last name, but he's a VC, and he runs this podcast called This Week's in Startups. And This Week's Startups was Redwood Materials, JB's new company. And he did it was an interesting podcast, about an hour-long interview where he discussed his early days at Tesla and how he was surprised by the reaction of the industry. That he said that he thought that the Model S, that as soon as the Model S was a big success, which it was early on with the reviewers and the owners, but maybe it took some time to become a commercial success. But he thought that as soon as it would happen, the industry would just copy the Model S and release equivalent vehicles and everything. But he said it didn't happen. And when I would agree with him, it didn't happen until probably like now. Like now you have cars that would give people some thought. Like, if I'm looking for a luxury 4-door sedan, maybe I don't have only the Model S as an option. Maybe I have the Lucid Air. Maybe I have the EQS. Maybe I have a few options there. But he said he was surprised by that. But the other interesting comment that he made, I think, is he sort of issued a warning to all the legacy automakers that are talking about switching their production capacity to electric vehicles, something we've been advocating for years, basically, since the beginning of Electrek. We've been saying, change your production capacity from internal combustion engine to electric vehicles. And he noted that he's been glad to see all the recent announcement from company like GM saying that they're going to go all electric by 2035. Company like Mercedes saying they're going to be all electric by 2030. Volvo is 2032, I think. Like it's all we've seen all these announcements. They have been coming like crazy in the last year. And he says that's great, but he believes that they haven't done the math. So what he says, like, so many OEMs, countries, factories, and customers are leaping into EVs and making huge announcement about going full electric this decade or next. But I don't think that they have done the math fully when it comes to what it entails in the supply chain and tracing all the way back to the mines. So he warned that it's like something that we expected for a while now, but it was interesting to see um, JB just talk about it more specifically. He said it won't be necessarily a battery shortage. He said it's going to ripple through the entire supply chain. So it's everything that has to do with nickel, uh, cathode, separator, like everything that's related to that's going to go to shortages, and it's going to affect other industries too. So there's going to be a fight over those supplies. And he believes that, like an automakers that say, "Oh, we're gonna be ready to go all electric by 2030." And he says, if that's the case, like, you need to put a lot more work into the supply chain, because if everybody else is doing it too, it's gonna be difficult. And we know that some people have been doing that, like they've been securing billions of dollars on battery contracts and everything, but it hasn't been clear if those contracts themselves are backed by a supply contract all the way down to the mines, like JB says. And like Elon in the last year or two has had concern about nickel. Uh, that seemed to be JB's main concern too. His point was that uh, lithium, there's a lot of it on Earth. There's a lot of nickel too on Earth, but he says the difference is that lithium hasn't been as searched for on Earth so far. So there's still a lot of potential for finding other big reserve and exploiting them. Um, and we know that nickel, lithium is pretty prevalent around the world. It's just about finding reserves of them that are more easily exploitable than others in order to keep the cost down, because that's we need to do that in order to keep electric vehicle affordable. But nickel, his point is that nickel has been around for a long time, and people have been exploiting it for a long time. That it's been searched for a long time. So all the best reserves, if you will, have already been exploited or already are being exploited. So finding new ones, which is completely likely, but they might get more expensive as we already go for the low-hanging fruit first. That's a good point. Something to keep an eye out. And I've been doing a lot of research in nickel over the last 2-3 years, especially on that, because I think it's a good investment opportunity. Then I don't have it here, but let me find it. Volkswagen released their delivery numbers for the year so far up until the third quarter, and it's looking good. They're up 138% year over year. And we sort of did a little comparison with Tesla to see like how, because Tesla is obviously the leader in BEV deliveries around the world, but Volkswagen is catching up, and it looks like they're basically around a year behind, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at both Tesla and VW, basically doubling year over year, Volkswagen is this year where Tesla was last year. So they're at about a 500,000 a year run rate, which Tesla hit about a 500,000 last year. They expect to do 1 million this year if they get some cars out of Berlin and maybe Texas. But
of course, we're talking about the Volkswagen group here too. So
yeah,
we're
the
talking
group.
about
So
VW, Audi,
Porsche.
Porsche. So this is something to know. And I know you wrote about Porsche this morning. The Taycan has now surpassed the 911 in sell so far this year, right?
Yeah, and I think that's pretty notable because
Mm.
that's kind of Porsche's iconic car. Even though the SUVs, I think they sell quite a bit more in numbers, especially in China. but it's notable, and there's a Macan coming that'll probably kind of finish the job on ICE with Porsche over the next few years.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what's kind of interesting about VW is they also have a plug-in hybrid business, throughout their company.
It's falling, right?
It's falling, but if you count them this year, that's another 500,000 vehicles they sold. So if you're talking about vehicles with plugs, Volkswagen's about on par with Tesla. They're about at 1 million plugged cars this year, or they will be at. That's kind of their anticipated number.
It's the run rate at this point
Right.
that they're at. Yeah. In terms of Porsche and maybe Volkswagen in general, I would think that they might be doing some like the chip shortage. They might be focusing some of their supply to their electric vehicles in order to keep that going. Versus so with the 911, is the 911 up this year?
It is actually up a little bit.
It is. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it is compared to last year,
Right.
which is not a great comparison either. But since it was the pandemic year,
Yeah,
we can say that this year was also the pandemic year. But
the Panamera was the only one that was kind of flat or down. I think they're doing well on. The Boxer and the Cayman are also, I think, pretty mediocre sales. But the Cayenne and the Macan were up as well.
mm-hmm.
So, I mean, overall, I think they're up 13%. So that's pretty good. Obviously the Taycan helps by doubling. Yeah, that's kind of like the theme at Volkswagen is electric vehicles are doubling year over year.
Yeah, and if Porsche didn't have the Taycan this year, they would be down, right?
Yeah,
they would be down in sales. So that's they really like saving their growth right now. So if you want growth in the auto industry right now, you need to have electric vehicles.
And it's kind of ironic, or I don't know if that's the right word, but Dieselgate is really kind of turned out to be a blessing in disguise for Volkswagen, because it got them to go electric a lot quicker than they would have on their own, without all these penalties and embarrassment. They did a lot of I don't want to say greenwashing, but they definitely
it incentivized them to make the switch sooner, to press the button sooner than the other automakers, because they had more greenwashing to do.
Right.
and even if you want to call it greenwashing, I mean, it's still washing. Even if you want to hide the bad that you did before, it's still some good. So I don't know. And also, literally, one of their punishment was to create Electrify America, which it's kind of a joke at this point. They literally forced them to create the biggest fast charging network in the U.S. public fast charging network in the U.S.
Right, and which is keeping everybody kind of going, like the other auto manufacturers.
Which has become the standard for a lot of basically every other non-Tesla automaker out there. That's become what they rely on in the US, like Ionity in Europe. Electrify America has become that for the US. So you could say that the Dieselgate is probably what might have saved Volkswagen, really.
Right, in the long run.
Should we jump into the comments?
Sure. Adam Orta says, "Hi guys, are Tesla 4680s supposed to be the next evolution to solid state, or is Tesla focusing on just 4680s? Solid state Cybertruck would be gnarly."
So the 4680 chemistry, I don't think you can consider that solid state. So at least the ones that they reveal. So they reveal a few of them, and you might be able to get that format into solid state later on, but I don't think that's in the plans right now.
All right. Some bikers. X asks, will the 4680 Model Y cars have longer range?
That's an option that Tesla has. It's at least an option. I don't necessarily know that they're gonna do it. Elon has been clear right now that he thinks that the range itself has been solved. He's happy with the 300 miles range for the mid-level vehicles, and then the 400 miles of range for the higher end levels vehicles. So what the 4680 cells does, it's improve the efficiency. So with an improved efficiency, you can achieve longer range if you use the same energy capacity uh, in the car. You can have you can cram in more energy capacity in the car and achieve longer range, or you can just use the same energy capacity but with a lower weight, a smaller form factor, and then achieve a higher efficiency with the same range. So it's an option that Tesla has. I think they're gonna take the latter option though.
All right. MIDI Jams Tech Reviews asks, any guesses on the final cost of the Cybertruck? And I'm assuming we're talking base price here. Do you think that we talked a little bit about this? Do you think that
I think they're gonna try to reach the. I think they're going for 45, the F-150.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so for the consumer version, like about 40, 45. So I think it would make sense for Tesla to have like a similar entry level, and then have a mid level maybe at 55.
But
And then
they're not gonna put out their. I mean, Tesla, everybody really at this point starts out with their building their high end version and then kind of
yeah.
works their way down. So the base price model one, it probably isn't going to come out to like 2024, 2025 at least. So
So you mean you mean this when you said starting price? You mean the price of the first truck that they're gonna sell?
no, well, yeah, I guess that's a good. I mean, they're probably going
Because
to sell the tri-motor first, right? Or the
I think the base price, I guess, the 45 would make sense. I think for the dual motor or the tri motor version, I think 55, 75 would be more likely.
okay. Going forward here, are there any requirements when looking to purchase an older house when you are planning to get home batteries and electric vehicle? You want to make sure you have a big incoming wire, enough to carry 200 amps, because the car itself is going to take 50 amps, not just one car. Obviously, the wiring to the garage has to be thick enough so it can carry it 240, 50 amp. Yeah, and the batteries, you got to have like a good area to put them in. They're not very loud, but they you probably, if you live in the colder parts of the US or wherever, you probably want to have those inside.
Yeah, I'm actually going through that right now because they just bought a new house and we are renovating it. And I just talked yesterday with the battery of the Powerwall installer. I'm getting a Powerwall installed there, and he's gonna do on the same time my vehicle charger. And yeah, right now what he's asking me for is like, show me your electrical panel and show me the distance between that and where you want your charger when you want your power wall in your garage, because I'm going to install it in the garage. And yeah, that's the main thing. And then they want to know the total capacity that it can handle, which is all something I'll have to do tomorrow when I get there.
All right. Seattle Vienna says, besides VW and GM, are any legacy car companies taking the EV revolution seriously? I don't know if I would even put GM in that category. They're certainly, their press department is taking it seriously. I don't know if their C-suite is fully on board.
Yeah, the seriously part is, for us, it's really like, what's your planned production capacity like in the relatively short term? Because we think that by 2025 there's going to be this massive shift that going to make basically most people that have half a brain are not going to want to buy anything else than an electric vehicle. For new car buyers, if you're not a new car buyer, like, don't worry about it. That's a secondary market that's completely different. It's a completely different beast. But for new car buyers, it's going to be a big deal. And right now, you look at like GM, they haven't released much like volume production, right? I haven't seen much volume numbers for them. Like they have like the numbers of EVs, the models that they want, but they never release volume, right? But Ford has, and we haven't been too impressed by them, especially the F-150, like 80,000 units in 2024.
Yeah, they're already sold out to mid 2025 or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, then in Volkswagen, there's I would need to see some actual like good production planned numbers, but they're not really forthcoming with that.
Mercedes has kind of been slow out of the gate, but this year at EIA, they seem to have a lot of stuff going on. So
They had a lot of models, but for me to be really serious about it, like how many are you planning to build of those models?
yeah,
Like the EQE could be a good seller for them. Are they planning to build 100,000 a year or 30,000 a year?
yeah. And I thought it was strange that the EQS came out before the EQE. I think
Mm.
that was a weird. Make that one the flagship. All right, moving on. If Rivian and Tesla Cybertruck are at price parity, what do you think will happen?
I think they both will have a great market to play in here because like a lot of people don't like the Cybertruck for design reasons, and the Rivian is a much more palatable for existing truck buyers. Like if you're already a truck buyer, a move to the Rivian seems a lot easier than a move to the Cybertruck. But there's also some like I think the Cybertruck's bed is supposedly going to be bigger than the Rivian's bed, so that's a big deal for a lot of people too. So um, I mean, I think that electric pickup truck are going to sell like crazy. I don't know. Like, I think there's not going to be a big competition between Tesla Cybertruck and Rivian. I think.
Yeah, and frankly, like I think every pickup truck, electric pickup truck that can be made before 2025 will be sold. Like
Yeah.
I don't think that there's
And
going to be.
after 2025 too.
Oh yeah, but I mean
Yeah,
at least until
yeah,
then.
yeah, and yeah, because you're saying that because of the likely limited uh, production capacity
Yeah, I mean
until
that's
then. Yeah,
Ford and
yeah,
Chevy and Dodge. They're making almost no vehicles until 2025. Very few. Rivian's going to make as many as they can. Tesla's going to make as many as they can, but I just don't see the demand being met by a long shot.
yeah.
Uh,
I think that there's a lot of people are gonna like switch around with a bunch of different of them too because the resale value is gonna be great on those because it's gonna be so hard to get new ones. They're gonna be sold out such ahead of time that you're gonna see people buy a Rivian and then sell it on the used market and buy a Cybertruck to test it out, and then the F-150 Lightning, maybe I'll go with that. It's gonna be wild in the Cybertruck world for not Cybertruck world, electric pickup truck world for a while. Can guarantee it. All right. Do you think Mazda will survive? If so, how? Yeah. So my answer is no. So I don't have to explain the how. Yeah, I mean, Mazda. What could maybe save them right now is if in the last year or two they've been, which I don't think they have, but if they've been like secretly working on like a electric Mazda Miata, and then they release that. And right now, like, there's nothing on the market in terms of like a not too expensive roadster electric. So if they do something like that, I think that could like give them enough breathing room to roll out other things later on, because I think they're just so late to market with EVs right now that I don't give them a lot of chance to survive, unfortunately. Do you agree, Seth?
Yeah, I mean somebody could buy the brand, VW or I don't know, Toyota.
Toyota, yeah, Toyota already has a small part in it, I think. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, you can ask me the same question about Toyota, and
Right.
I know like every serious non-blogger car journalist, I'd be, or you're completely crazy to say that, but I don't. At this point in time, unless I see a giant shift in the next like 12 months, I don't think Toyota's going to survive the decade.
And you can already see them panicking. Like they're doing
Mm,
all this government stuff. They're trying to
yeah.
tell the government that if everything moves to EVs, people will lose their jobs and all this stuff will happen. Like that to me is desperation.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's it for this episode of the Electrek Podcast, everyone. I appreciate you if you're still listening at this point. If you do like the show, you can give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, on whatever live streaming service you use. If you're listening right now on your podcast app, if you can give us a 5-star review, that helps the show a lot too. So we appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for this week. So we'll see you next week. Have a safe weekend. Goodbye.